Hello and welcome to the Doofcast, a film and TV podcast from Doof Media. I am your host, Scott Daly, and joining me, as always, the cricket that lives in my heart, it's Matt Freeman. How's it going today, Matt?
It's going great. I'm really comfortable and cozy here in your chest cavity. Now, you are a living human, so this is going to kill you.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Sorry.
maybe it's like a metaphor for something.
No, you're going to die now.
I mean, look, that is in line with the movie, so
True.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sacrifice.
This week on the show, we are returning to another director that we have done a deconstructing series on before, but has a new movie that we've yet to talk about. And by new movie, I mean a movie that came out 3 years ago. This week, we're back with our old friend Guillermo Del Toro, and we're checking out Del Toro's latest film. Again, when I use the word latest, I mean in a relative sense. 2022's Pinocchio, or should I say 2022's Guillermo Del Toro's Pinocchio. Matt, because I don't know if you knew this, but also the Robert Zemeckis live action Pinocchio movie also came out in 2022, and perhaps that's why this one kind of just missed us a little bit. That's an unfortunate thing to happen to Mr. Del Toro.
I heard that there's also like Guillermo Del Toro's Frankenstein coming out this year. Is that
2025? Yep.
With apparently the same exact cast again. That's gonna be fun.
The same exact cast as.
I mean, I'm exaggerating. It's not exactly the same cast, but it also has Christoph Waltz, and various others. So,
I didn't know. I knew the movie's coming out. I know next to nothing about it besides the entire story of Frankenstein.
Yes,
but
right. Well, much like we know the entire story of Pinocchio, I anticipate that there will be some differences in his version of Frankenstein.
Do we know the entire story of Pinocchio?
We don't. we know Disney's Pinocchio.
Yeah, that is very true. So we're going to be talking all about Del Toro's Pinocchio, and then I think we're going to wrap up that section with attempting to put a list of our Del Toro films together. We actually found out that when we covered Guillermo Del Toro, we hadn't yet set the standard of we were going to rank the films of the directors that we do these series on. So I have my personal ranking. I have Matt's ranking of only the first 10 of Del Toro's films. We don't have either of the latest 2 movies on here. So we're going to attempt to do something to throw them together, I think. Maybe. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll see.
And then we're going to wrap up the episode with the latest 3 episodes in Star Wars Andor. Is it Star Wars Andor, or is it Andor a Star Wars story? Or is it neither of those things?
I don't know. When you look at the poster, it literally says Star Wars Andor.
That's
but
confusing.
I don't know what I don't know how they're doing their branding exactly.
I don't think it matters.
Apparently both are correct.
Cool. I love it. We'll be talking about episodes 4 through 6 of that show.
Yep.
All right, Matt, let's get into Guillermo Del Toro's Pinocchio.
I want to tell you a story. It's a story you may think you know, but you don't. Over there! What is that?
Papa! It speaks!
He's just a puppet!
No, I'm not. I'm a real boy!
People are sometimes afraid of things they don't know.
I don't understand.
Matt, what is this movie all about?
A father's wish magically brings a wooden boy to life in Italy, giving him a chance to care for the child.
I love how the IMDb person thought that the in Italy was important enough to include in that very short summary. And maybe he's right.
Maybe he's right, because the Del Toro does go out of his way to make this I would say, the most Italian version of Pinocchio to date.
I would agree with that. Well, okay, maybe the original book is more Italian in that it was written by an Italian man.
Yes, but this version managed to cram Mussolini into it. So
that is true. Something I was not expecting.
Yeah.
You boot up your Pinocchio, you're not expecting to see Mussolini. But
I certainly wasn't.
This movie was written by Guillermo Del Toro and Patrick McHale. It was directed by Del Toro and Mark Gustafson. It stars Ewan McGregor, David Bradley, Christoph Waltz, and a whole bunch of other performers, including some surprise ones maybe we'll get into as we talk about. This is a stop-motion animation film, and as we said, it came out the same year as another Pinocchio movie. It was, I believe, a straight-to-Netflix release. I don't think this saw any time in theaters. And I did. I missed it. I missed it completely. Although I found out, Matt, by the way,
Mhm.
that perhaps I didn't miss it as much as I thought, because when I pulled up Netflix to watch this movie, Netflix told me I had watched half of it.
Uh-huh.
And I don't remember doing that. Even after watching it, I don't remember doing that. So I don't think my wife would just randomly sit down and watch Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio on Netflix.
Uh-huh.
The only thing I can think of is that maybe there was a time when like I was going to bed, it was really late, and I had this brilliant idea to watch a movie, saw that Guillermo del Toro had a Pinocchio movie on Netflix and turned it on, and then promptly fell asleep and watched none of it.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe my other thought, which just seems vaguely plausible, is that like you put it on for a kid and then walked out of the room, thus subjecting them to lifelong trauma.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely would have happened, the trauma part.
Yeah.
This would have been a bad choice for me to make. I really don't feel like I did that, but I'll find out tomorrow by putting it on for my kids and walking out of the room and seeing if they go, oh, yeah, this is that one that I still dream about.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
All right, Matt, tell me what you thought of Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
So just before I do that, I want to set the stage of like the vibe this week. So
Okay.
I watched the 3 Andor episodes.
Sure.
And I found them to be really, really affecting and sad.
Mm-hmm.
They made me very sad. And then I watched this movie not maybe a day or two after.
And you felt happy and thrilled about life and the human experience, right?
Right. So no, this movie is also very sad. This movie is, and that brings me to telling you what I thought about the movie directly, which is like, historically, when we went through all the Del Toro movies, that's one of the rare times that I kind of, the director's shtick sort of wore on me.
Yeah.
And his method his approach to drama and storytelling just does not quite line up with mine in a way that kind of became grating over time. And the really interesting thing about this movie is I feel like this movie and I are in closer alignment.
Interesting.
And I'm a big victim of recency bias, but like in this moment, I'm thinking like this movie, I'm not going to say this is like his best movie or like my favorite movie of his. I don't think that's necessarily true, but I will say I think this movie just worked on me dramatically the best out of any of his other films. It was, and part of that I think is because it's kind of a straightforward story. It's basically a children's story that has been like made slightly edgy by putting fascists in it. And then so maybe it's just like it's a little bit simpler and thus it's a little bit easier for me to swallow. But I thought this movie worked on me really well because we've got just some really solid, well executed dramatic through lines. It is the Pinocchio story, but it's not quite. We've got some extra characters thrown in there. We've got some extra dynamics, some extra undertones. I don't think like war and fascism and the contentious. Well, I think probably the contentious relationship between fathers and sons was a core theme of Pinocchio, but it's I think sort of elevated and made more mature and nuanced in this movie, and it all just worked on me like gangbusters. So I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I loved it. I loved it so much. And like to be clear here, like I think I was much more favorable on Del Toro and his style of film than you were. And also, one thing people might not remember about me is that like stop motion animation is like one of my favorite things ever. I just find it beautiful and awe-inspiring. And so like I felt like I was in on this movie before I hit play. And like maybe that's unfair as a critic to like have predisposed I know I'm gonna love this movie. But like I deeply loved this movie, and I think it's beautiful. I think it's fascinating. I think it's touching and very, very sad, as you pointed out. I don't like. I don't know, what is your relationship with the Pinocchio story? Because like, as you said, we all know the Disney version.
Yeah.
We've all seen the Disney version, but I would never have said like the Disney version of Pinocchio was very important to me. I don't think it is. I think it was a movie I saw. I think it was a movie I remember being terrified of as a kid. Because when he turns into a donkey, it's very scary. It's very scary when he turns into a donkey. I did not like that part as a small child, and I have a very clear memory of that. And that's all I know of Pinocchio. So I had no attachment to this idea or this character or any of this. And yeah, this movie moved me. I really loved it.
It's an interesting question. I don't think I would have said that the Pinocchio story was particularly important to me, but on the other hand, when I think about it, I do really vividly remember watching it as a child, which I don't think I can necessarily say about most movies. I think I don't remember what we were talking about recently, but we were joking about how like the main way that a child processes like moral questions or whatever is just to like see another kid being bad and being like, that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
You're a bad kid. I'm not like that. And it's very like, it's very like by example and very sort of black and white thinking, or at least I was as a child. I think it's a pretty common like developmental stage. And I remember, I think the reason I remember Pinocchio vividly is like, that is how the movie operates. That is how the Disney movie operates dramatically. Is it's like it's showing this kid who's basically, just created and has no understanding of the world, and he's doing the things that sort of come naturally to a child, which of course get him in trouble. Mm-hmm. And you as the child are like, no, don't do that. And then you see like terrible things happen to him, and then there's ups and downs, and then there's redemption, and it's sort of Pinocchio in some ways is actually like the perfect drama for a child of a certain age, because they can't grasp anything that requires like actual empathy, but they can grasp like, the kid is doing the bad thing, and he's gonna get in trouble, and that's the mechanics of the whole Disney movie basically. Mm-hmm. This movie sort of very much also does this. Like I think that's the Pinocchio story is this morality tale where it's sort of meant to be like, don't be a little shit. That's the moral. Don't lie. Listen to your father, or bad things will happen to you. And that's the core of the story. And this movie does it too, but I think it just does it a little bit more nuanced, and it's a uplifting but also kind of bittersweet, sad examination of the process of moral maturation.
Yeah. I completely agree. That is all in here. I think the reason I ended up like really, really vibing with the movie is because that is all in there. And I think there's some more stuff in there as well. Like, mm-hmm. I think Geppetto's journey through this movie is really interesting as well, because, he's this, the thing that all parents can now very, very difficultly relate to is the loss of a child, right? I found the opening sequence that went on for more than I thought it was going to. Mm-hmm. Before Pinocchio even exists, the opening sequence where we meet Carlo, his son, we get to see their relationship and see how close they are, and we kind of know it's coming, that Carlo is going to die. I found that sequence horrifying, and then Geppetto's journey is one of, he's kind of a drunken, depressed guy. He makes this puppet. This puppet magically comes to life, and he's like immediately like, I've got my Carlo back. It's my Carlo. And the pressure on Pinocchio to be not just Geppetto's son, but that version of Geppetto's son. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's exactly what the Spielberg film does, whose name I'm blanking on right now.
Oh, you know
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's not
AI or right?
AI,
yeah, which is in and of itself like textually a Pinocchio story, right? So like the idea that this is this replacement to replace my son, but but Geppetto needs to realize throughout the course of the movie that no, this is not Carlo. This is Pinocchio, and he's different, and you cannot have the same level of expectations on him. And then also at the very end of the movie, it becomes like a meditation on life and mortality, and like how we learn to exist in a world where the people we love eventually go away. Which, I mean, you could kind of see was there the whole time, but like was just devastating at the end. But beautiful in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
So I mean, like it is doing like the core Pinocchio story very well. But I think it's doing a lot of really other interesting things too.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the just like you said, the through line about morality, and I don't know, what role or how, explained the role of the fairy is in the original story.
No idea.
It's all just like, a magical MacGuffin, and he's alive. This story makes it much more central, where first of all, we get our weird, biblically accurate angel, weird creature aesthetic in the form of the spirit creatures, one of which is like a angel and one of which is like a centaur thing. And those are the sort of become the backbone of this whole spiritual world that is responsible for bringing Pinocchio back to life. And then we make a big deal out of the fact that he's now immortal, actually, and him choosing to be a real boy is not actually just like, oh, this is your reward for being good. It's actually like, oh, actually choosing to be a real boy means choosing mortality, which was fantastically interesting. And
well, and
like
then he almost
effective.
immediately sets that mortality aside and dies for his father, right? Like,
right.
Again, not a thing I was. Yeah, I mean, like everyone knows that pure like I want to be a real boy thing from the Disney film, and yeah, it was just a different. I say different take on it. Again, I want to be clear here. I have not read the original Pinocchio story, and I know very little about what the original Pinocchio story is. So this could all be perfectly in line with what that book or series of books is. I just don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know either. But I found it very effective. I think I don't know what it is exactly that I didn't like about Del Toro previously, but I think it had something to do with the drama, the humanity sort of being kept just a little bit more at arm's length than I wanted it to be. And this movie just doesn't do that at all. It has a lot of really like heartfelt and earnest moments, even just the stuff with him and the son of the fascist, I don't know what his official title was, but the fascist guy, where they, at first there's conflict between them. The boy is kind of mean to him. I actually just kind of pigeonholed him as like, okay, he's going to be, the jerk antagonist kid that you need in this kind of story. But then we really humanize that kid. We realize like, oh, he's this way because of how his father is. And they form this friendship, and they're like, I was so invested in their friendship. I was actually just very happy that the movie gives us one little shot just to assure us that the boy wasn't killed by the bomb.
Yeah, because I really thought he was, and I was like, why would you do that?
Yeah, I think I would have. I think I would be really mad at this movie if they killed the little boy. Actually,
yeah, his name is Candlewick, by the way, which is a delightful name. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this movie is, as you said, like this idea of a relationship between fathers and sons, and we see it through Geppetto and Pinocchio. We see it through Candlewick, and the Podesta is, I think, the name of. I think that's his title technically. I don't know if we ever know his name, but that's the Candlewick's father, played by Ron Perlman, of course, because Guillermo Del Toro's obviously got to get Ron Perlman in wherever he can. And then even Count Volpe and Spazzatura is another kind of version of the father son. I don't know if the monkey is a boy or a girl. It's voiced by Cate Blanchett, hilariously enough. But then it doesn't matter. It's like the father child relationship is core to everything we see here.
But that one's an abusive relationship.
Yeah. And so like we get to see all these different relationships, and as Pinocchio and Geppetto learn to be father and son to each other and what that entails, what that means, and how they define that relationship. Beautiful, touching stuff, really.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned a minute ago the intro sequence, which is its own really tragic kind of short story about Geppetto and his son. Just like it reminded me of the beginning of Up, where it's really it just takes its time, letting you get to know this father and son, and the father and son just love each other so much, and their life is so idyllic. And this father is teaching the son to be a carpenter, and the movie tells us from the beginning, like from the very first moment, like his son died, and here's how that happened. So it's coming, which actually just kind of makes it really hard to watch, but like not so hard to watch that I didn't enjoy it or didn't get anything out of it. And
for sure,
it's just really sad, but not sad in the way where I feel like some. I know you're getting sick of me harping on this, but like I feel like I've always felt like the thing about like Pan's Labyrinth, for example, is you're just like mashing my face into the sadness, like like the proverbial fascist with his bottle. If you'll make that connection with me,
sure.
And this movie was very sad, but it didn't feel like just kind of gratuitously sad.
Yeah, I mean, anyway. I don't think I think Pan's Labyrinth was either. I think it, in my mind, it's similar, but no, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's just say the stop motion animation of this movie is gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, very, very few people do stop motion animation anymore. We've talked about Leica, which does Leica exist anymore? Did they go out of business?
Probably.
No. They haven't made a new movie in a long time. That makes me very sad. But I found the work on the stop motion good. I loved the designs, like the design of Pinocchio. I love it. Like it's so Del Toro, right? He's a little weird, and the first time we see him move, it's unhuman.
Yeah,
it's inhuman, and it makes you a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's horror.
Yeah, and yet it just kind of comes together, and you learn to love this little weird puppet that only has one ear. And I love the way the nose grows. Like I just love everything about the design.
Yeah, I love the design. I love the movement. I love the voice. Actually, it was a very sort of instantly iconic version of like that kind of character to me, where I love I forget the exact back and forth because I only just saw this movie once, but just like his father told him to go to school, and he's like very happily crowing about how he's going to go to school, and then God, I forget exactly, but he like turns on a dime, and he's like the cricket like inadvertently makes him think that he'll have to lie at school, so he's like, no, I hate school. And it was like within like 1 second, I don't know, I love the way he's written. I love his voice acting. I kind of fell in love with this little wooden boy. It's great.
And then I loved, he's a good actor, the kid, because I love his nose didn't grow when he called me a burden realization. That broke my heart a little bit. It's all very touching and very sweet. I think his performance when he was talking to Candlewick about fathers and sons, and this realization that sometimes our dads love us, but sometimes they say things they don't mean.
Yeah,
I don't know if the movie proves that out. I think Count Volpe is just a bad person. I don't think he loves Spazzatura at all.
Yeah.
But the attempt to comfort Candlewick, I think, was very, very sweet.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was sweet. I thought there's a lot of heart in to speak of the monkey. I forget the monkey's name.
Spazzatura. Kate Blanchett. Just call the monkey Kate
Blanchett. Was there a monkey in the Disney version? I don't remember there being a monkey.
There were, like when he joins like the circus in the Disney version, aren't the circus people animals of some sort?
I just don't remember.
I think so.
But my point was going to be like the movie's really good about this sort of thing where the monkey at first is like, obviously an evil monkey. It's going to be the antagonist evil monkey, and then sort of comes to care for Pinocchio actually, and there's like a moment where the guy is gonna kill Pinocchio out of revenge, and the monkey has finally had enough and turns on him and defends Pinocchio, and it's and then the monkey, and then you love the monkey from that moment. Yep. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect to care about the monkey. The only thing I texted you while watching this movie is, as the movie's ending, you see first Geppetto dies, and then Jiminy Cricket dies, and you're already like borderline tearing up because we're kind of moving toward the ending. And then as Pinocchio is walking to their graves, the monkey's walking behind him, and then the monkey just disappears, and then Pinocchio leans down and he's in front of the monkey's grave. And I was like,
it's a really mean trick, because he's clearly walking to the grave of Geppetto, and you're like, okay, I'm emotionally prepared for this. Yeah. You see the monkey behind him. The monkey's got a cane now, though, because he's old. I got it. And then suddenly where you look at the grave and it says Spazzatura, and you're like, what? No, not him too.
Yeah, not the monkey.
Did you? So like the ending line was essentially like, okay, so everyone he knows and loves dies because he's immortal. And then Pinocchio leaves and wanders the earth. The end. I think he'll die one day, probably. What are we supposed to take away from that moment?
Okay. I don't know if I'm right about this, but I think it might be as simple as, hey, we can't end this movie with Pinocchio also dying as well as everyone else. And I think it's sort of supposed to be like, when you're a kid, when you're a kid, you can anticipate that everyone older than you that you care about is going to die before you. Mm-hmm. And eventually you'll die, but it's not really a big worry. It shouldn't be a big worry of yours when you're a kid. Yeah. And I despite the fact that there's a scene where a man falls off of a cliff and then impacts jagged rocks and you hear an audible crunching sound, I do think this is supposed to be something that kids can watch. And get something out of, and get some kind of moral lesson out of. So I think it might be as simple as that, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's just like being a child is kind of feeling immortal, and you feel like you're going to live forever. And that is essentially growing up, is leaving all the people that you knew and loved behind and going out on your own and making your own adventures. And eventually you will die too. But when you're a kid, it doesn't feel that way. Yeah. So I like that a whole lot.
I think that the movie as a whole can be viewed as a sort of way of helping a kid come to the grips with the idea of dying, because you start out with this little puppet boy who is told, yeah, you're immortal, you're never going to die. Yeah. And that's kind of portrayed as like, yeah, it's not, I mean, I can see why you think that's great right now, but you might not find that to be so great later. And then by the climax, essentially, the little puppet boy has chosen, like, I would rather be mortal. I would rather die than just go on living knowing that I could have saved my papa.
Yeah.
And I think even a kid can relate to that thought.
Yeah.
So I think that it helps you get your arms around it a little bit. I even found it, touching, honestly.
I really like the 3-beat of it too. Like, I think he dies 3 times in the course of this, and like, so the gimmick here is the death. Every time he dies, he has to wait with death longer before he's reborn. And the first 2 beats of that, it's like he's mid conversation with death, getting life lessons imparted to him on what he should care about and what death means and what life means. And it's always, he gets sent back too soon, right? Like, it's like he's mid conversation, he's like, no, I want to learn more. And then of course the third beat here is the one where he gives up his mortality or immortality to get back quicker, because it's too long now. I think that's a great inversion of that beat that really drives home the meaning of that choice and the change that he's gone through. I I really, really like it. It's just very effective storytelling.
Yeah, I didn't think of that, but you're totally right. It is exactly that. It is a three-peat. Just a aside here, because maybe you mentioned this. I didn't hear if you did. That the Pinocchio voice that I was just raving about how much I love. That's Finn Wolfhard, the kid from Stranger Things.
No, Finn did Candlewick, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, Candlewick, the boy. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
So who? Wait. Okay, then who?
Alfie Tempest is the person who did.
Okay.
And he played Matt. All comes full circle. He played young Lucius in Gladiator 2. So he was the kid that played when they did flashbacks in Gladiator 2 to when Lucius was young.
But not not young
the actor
Lucius
from
in
Gladiator 1.
Okay.
Yeah, it's different. So it's him. There you go.
Gotcha. Now this says he was Carlo's voice. Is he also Pinocchio's
He did
voice?
both, yeah.
Okay,
Carlo
okay.
and Pinocchio have the same voice, which really goes to, at least at the beginning of the movie, really drive home the idea that here's your replacement son, Geppetto. Enjoy.
Okay. Are you sure it's not Gregory Mann?
Oh, maybe they are different voices. Now I'm starting to confuse myself.
I'm confused too. I wish that they labeled this better. Anyway, I don't know who those people are.
Maybe Carlo was a different voice. I could have sworn it said Pinocchio / Carlo when I looked at this before. God damn it. Stupid.
Oh, well.
This is all IMDb's fault.
IMDb.
See, yeah, it says Pinocchio. It says Gregory Mann, Pinocchio / Carlo. I guess Alfie Tempest. It says Carlo / Pinocchio additional voices.
Oh.
What does that mean?
So this aside brought to you by IMDb.com, your source for trusted movie trivia.
Yeah. So it seems like just the conclusion on this beat, just so we can move on from it. Gregory Mann was the boy that played both Carlo and Pinocchio in this movie. He has been in a couple things before this, but not much. He's a very young man, and he did a great job.
Okay, and he's not the kid from Stranger Things.
He's not the kid from Stranger Things. No.
Yeah, great. Okay. Good little movie though. Nice.
Are we done?
I think we're done. I was going to go through my list of Del Toro-isms, which is obligatory for
sure
for a Del Toro movie.
Before we do that, I did just want to say, like, I love Christoph Waltz as a performer, but I feel like, and I know I've said this before, but I feel like so many people use him wrong. Like outside of Tarantino, I feel like a lot of the stuff he's been in has been pretty ho-hum and bad. And it's because I think most people don't understand why he's such a captivating, wonderful performer. I think he does a really good job of the voice in this movie.
Yeah, me too.
The Count is such a wonderfully terrible character and like immediately recognizable as him, and very, very good.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, all of the side characters were fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Del Toro-isms, I think we've got a full slate here, Scott. We got mazes and dark stony settings and labyrinths. I think the subterranean Hades world counts for that.
Sure.
We got that very particular aesthetic of weird creature design. We got that in the form of the spirit beings, the underground rabbits, and I think even Pinocchio himself.
Yeah, and also I would say the dogfish is like a weird looking, the thing that's just a whale. And I love that Walt Disney Company says, let's just make that a whale.
Yeah.
And then Del Toro's like, no, we're going to make it this really weird fish with the grossest blowhole ever.
Yeah. It's going to have like multiple blowholes on its body for some reason. It's going to be super disgusting.
So gross. Yeah. I think you're right there.
Okay. The third bullet point is bugs. So, yes.
I feel like that's an easy check. Yeah.
With not only that, but I feel like the design of Jiminy Cricket is, upsetting. He's not really cute, actually.
That's fair. He's not. He's kind of an asshole too at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, which is why actually I think Ewan McGregor is perfect for this, because Ewan McGregor, I think he just lends himself to that role of just like being the the guy who has something better to do and now he's put upon. That's just like a perfect character archetype for him to play.
I'm so glad you said that. I feel exactly the same way. Like the second the cricket started speaking at the very beginning of the movie, I was like, perfect.
Yeah.
He is the perfect cast for this role. I think that's, I have not seen Robert Zemeckis's Disney version of Pinocchio. I don't know if you have. I don't know if you ever watched that.
No.
I'm kind of tempted to now because I'm curious, but like, I just feel bad for it because their Jiminy Cricket is, oh my God, I just forgot who it was. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who is an actor I love. I really enjoyed Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but like, I'm sorry, Guillermo got Ewan McGregor. You just lose.
Yeah. It's great.
They did get Tom Hanks as Geppetto though, so I mean it's a good call. It's a good call.
That's true. I like this interpretation of Geppetto though. He's kind of more like pathetic, which
he's pathetic. He's a little more sharp edged.
Yeah.
I feel like like a Tom Hanks version of that character is just warm and soft all the way around, and that would not have worked for this movie at all. Yeah, you need to believe he's like this drunken idiot who like in a drunken, like grief stricken, like rage carves this puppet.
Yeah.
And that's why he's kind of messy and undone. He's only got one ear. Like he's just imperfect.
Yeah.
And weird in a great way because he's made by some drunk guy.
Yeah. This guy who was genuinely like destroyed by grief. Not in a photogenic way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Watches, clocks, and clockwork is the next one. We got some cuckoo clocks.
Yeah.
The fairly repeated visual motif of cuckoo clocks, I would say.
I think there's just I think this is like also more broadly just like machinery and like the tactile nature of like ticking, winding machinery. And I think a lot of the depictions of Mussolini's army, especially in the section when they're at the youth camp, which the way they filmed that, like this happy youth camp, but it's filmed like dark and stormy and terrible and awful. I think that fits, even if we're not like in the example of Pan's Labyrinth, like in a giant clock the whole time.
Yeah. I love that. And you caused me to kind of think like really the whole concept of stop motion animation is almost clockwork.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
It's his obsession with the mechanical manifest. Next bullet point is child protagonists or prominent child characters.
Okay. Easy check. Yeah.
Easy check. Misfits within an oppressive system.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think Pinocchio would already be a misfit, but then we emphasize the idea of like he's not cooperating, and this isn't working out for us in fascist Italy.
We haven't like we kind of joked around about the Mussolini of it all. I do think it's really fascinating that Del Toro looked at the story and said, okay, it's an Italian story, so we're just going to set it in Italy, but then makes the really interesting choice to set it in World War II Italy, in Italy under fascism, which is a thing he does before, right? Pan's Labyrinth is under the fascism movement in Spain. Like he is really interested in, Shape of Water, right? We're kind of implied to be under some sort of fascist regime there, at least within the world of the science place whose name I'm not remembering. Like this is definitely something he's interested in, and it does strike me as really interesting. He said, I think this is the place for this story, actually, to talk about the struggle with a father and son in the middle of like an absolute power taking your freedoms away and dictating where you go and what you do, and how do you, father, how do you, son, exist in a world like this where these people can just take things away from you whenever they want. And
we also play with the idea that, you've got one father who is a fascist and one father who is trying to protect his son from that machine, and just the different reactions that both the fathers and the sons can have to this situation. Yeah. That's and great.
Plus he gets to make a funny song about how much Mussolini sucks, so he gets to do that too.
Yes, I feel like that's his motivation for making this whole movie, really.
How did you like? How what do you think of the musical sections? There's not too many of them, but they're definitely here.
Yeah, I'm fairly neutral, I guess. Like I certainly wasn't like annoyed and like waiting for them to end, but I can't remember any of the songs. I think the one part that I liked and that I thought worked on me was this idea that Geppetto would sing this song to his son Carlo, and then that song as a motif sort of recurs a few times in the story, and that eventually did work on me. I think just due to like repetition.
No, I like that. Yeah,
I like.
Yeah,
that
I feel the same way. Where like the songs were fine. Like none of them I was like, oh yeah, man, I'm gonna never forget this song for the rest of my life. I did not mind them.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, until you mentioned that just now, I like blanked on the fact that there were songs. So that's kind of where they hit me is not very much. The final bullet point. So we've hit 100% of these up until now, and it's going to be a stretch to hit the final bullet point, which is horrible damage to faces.
I am interested to see how you're going to pull this one off. So go off.
All right, so here I go. So there's two ways we can approach this, Scott. One of them is we get symbolic horrific damage to faces, okay? Because there is repeated shooting children in the face with paintball guns.
Okay.
Some of which are shooting yellow paint, but some of which are shooting red paint, and so you get the image of a child's face being destroyed by a splatter of red gore. Now, obviously, it's not actually red gore; it's paint. But the little pretend skirmish that the children are having is a very clear and direct, like metaphorical and literal connection to the idea that after this, we're going to hand you an actual gun, and you're going to go actually run into the battlefield and actually get shot in the face. So, to me, that's Del Toro saying, I know how to communicate the idea of uncomfortable violence. It's being hit in the face. It's damage to the face. So it's not literal damage to the face, but it's symbolic damage to the face. And you're seeing it. It just isn't. It's symbolizing something more than what you're actually seeing.
Okay.
That's the first element. The other element is the guy falls face first onto a rock off the cliff. You don't see it, but you hear it.
It's a stretch. It is a stretch.
I'm more fond of the first one than the second one, honestly, as a connection.
Yeah, I feel like that's a little bit less of a stretch, but still definitely a stretch. I mean, or you can just say the fact that they have to file Pinocchio's nose down pretty aggressively multiple times throughout the course of the movie.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that as well.
I mean, the thing that I noticed was like, I think on top of face destruction, Del Toro has a penchant for eyes, and noticed that the woodland spirits, before they transformed into the blue fairy, were just like disembodied, gross, floating eyes.
Yeah.
It's like, of course, Guillermo, of course you did that.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, I think with the stretch on one of them, we've hit all the big beats. I like all these beats, by the way. I know like this, you like putting this list together came from a place of frustration with the repetition of Del Toro. And to be fair, like what we did was we watched 10 Del Toro films in 2.5 months, roughly.
Yeah. It's
and then we didn't watch any Del Toro for like 5 years. So like it's very possible that had we, if we sat down to do Deconstructing Del Toro right now and we watched Pinocchio at the end of 11 other movies, you would have been like, man, he's doing it again. I'm sick of this shit.
Doing the same thing again. And the thing is, now going through this list, I'm clearly just like having a good time. And in point of fact, I feel like me going through this list caused us to have some more like interesting asides and it extended the conversation in an interesting way rather than just like me making fun of Del Toro, which is is not what I intended to do. It was just like, yeah, he did all the same things again, but I felt like all of them in this case were effective and mostly purposeful. The one of them that I thought was just odd was the creature design of the angel creatures, because I'm just like, You just can't help yourself. You just can't make a normal looking kind of fairy creature.
Yeah. I'm going to look at what Disney did with the blue fairy, and I'm going to say no.
Yeah, right.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Give her multiple arms, god damn it.
Yeah, she has no eyes, but she's covered in eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, he does love eyes, doesn't he?
Uh-huh.
Gotta have lots of eyes.
It's like I said, it's a biblically accurate angel.
This movie won the Academy Award, by the way, for Best
yeah.
Animated Picture. I don't know if we've said that.
Well deserved.
Yeah. And that is like, it really is interesting to look at Del Toro, and he won the Best Director Oscar, and Shape of Water won Best Picture. And then what did he do since then? He did this movie, but before that he did a movie that I think I remember enjoying. I don't remember how you felt about Nightmare Alley. That was the Bradley Cooper kind of grifter carnival film.
Yeah. I think I had like some gripes, but I think that I liked it. My memory of it is having a lot of great moments, and then feeling like it was kind of slow in places.
It was definitely slow. Yeah. It was 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to attempt at a relatively quick pace to rank these 12 films?
I think we can take a shot at it. I worry that it's been so long that I just don't remember them very well. But let's just go for it.
That's fair, because our exercise here is normally just slotting the newest movie into this already existing ranking.
Yeah.
And we don't have that option this time. I mean, we do have our personal rankings right here, which we can read if we want to do that really quick. And maybe we'll just do it that exercise. Maybe we'll just slot it into our own personal rankings and not try to play the game of how much of this movie do I remember.
Right. That sounds a little bit less time consuming than what you.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to read yours?
Sure. So from worst to best in my ranking, the worst one was Mimic. The second worst was Hellboy 2, followed by Hellboy 1, which kind of surprises me because I thought I liked Hellboy 1, but there you go.
Apparently you did not.
Number 7 was Pacific Rim. Number 6 was Crimson Peak, the gothic horror. Number 5 is Blade 2, I think almost entirely due to nostalgia and my
that's
fondness.
not a good movie, man.
Yeah, it's not. I still don't have the heart to put it any lower, just because I put Blade 2 above Crimson Peak. I'll pass that.
That's very funny.
Number 4 was Kronos. I remember loving that movie and how weird and daring it is.
Yeah.
Number 3 is Devil's Backbone. That to me is kind of like a perfect Del Toro movie.
Yeah.
I feel just by the way, I feel like if I was going to reorder this now, I might put Devil's Backbone in number 1, just because in terms of how that movie sits with me. And then number 2, Pan's Labyrinth. Everyone loves Pan's Labyrinth. And number 1, I put Shape of Water. So that was my ranking.
That's the one that surprises me the most, is that you. I mean, I loved Shape of Water too, but I don't remember you liking it as much as all that. So
me
that
neither.
All right. I'll
you?
do mine real quick, and then we'll try to figure out where to put these movies in ours. Or do you want to put it in yours first, and then I'll do mine?
You go ahead.
Okay, so my ranking is close to yours, but a little bit different. I have Mimic at 10 as well, then Hellboy 2 also. Then I put Blade 2 here because it's not a very good movie, and it deserves number 8. Number 7, I put Hellboy. Number 6, I put Kronos, which is a little surprising to me because I remember really liking that movie too, but I put it two spots lower than yours. 5, I have Pacific Rim. 4, I have Crimson Peak. 3, I have The Devil's Backbone. 2, The Shape of Water. And my favorite Guillermo Del Toro film is Pan's Labyrinth. So close to yours.
Yeah.
3, 2, and 1, we agreed. We have a slightly different order there. But
yeah, and I think we really only substantially disagreed about Blade 2 for the reasons we already discussed.
Yeah. So all right, let's toss Nightmare Alley in here real quick, because it's not on either of our lists, and then we'll move on to Pinocchio.
I'm going to put Nightmare Alley just ahead of Crimson Peak and just behind Blade 2.
Why do you hate Crimson Peak so much? monster.
I don't know. How about you?
I am doing what's called a cop out, and I am putting it at number 7, because it doesn't make me make a difficult decision, because I'm putting my top 5 ahead of it, and then I'm saying I'm surprised how much I didn't like Kronos per this list when I remember liking it so much, and so I'm going to put it behind that one, but above the movies that I think are all just collectively not very good. So this is kind of a cop out answer, because I think Nightmare Alley is probably deserving of higher up on the list, but there you go.
Yeah, I think this is why I like it when we just do like A tier, B tier, C tier, because I feel like Nightmare Alley is like high B tier is basically where I'm trying to put it. But we didn't do it that way. So
yeah, I mean, the internet loves tier lists, so maybe all new deconstructing directors from here on out will just tier them. We'll just tier them up.
Yeah, it is a very natural feeling way of sorting things, because you like you sometimes you don't know, like, is this a number 7 or a number 8, but you do very much know, like, okay, is this one of the really good ones or is this one of the okay ones? Like that's you generally feel pretty sure about that. So
I agree. And now comes the task of putting Pinocchio on our lists, and surprisingly difficult for me. I think you're gonna have a much easier time with this than I am. So why don't you go first?
I mean, I'm just gonna like just give in. Actually, just give in to the recency bias, and I'm just gonna say that this is my favorite Del Toro movie.
That's great. I love that. I love that for you.
Well, your turn.
This is hard. It's hard, man.
Yeah.
So I love Pacific Rim because it has giant robots fight giant monsters. I don't know if you saw that movie. Did you see the part where a giant robot picks up a oil tanker and then uses it as a bat to hit a giant monster? Did you see that?
I forgot about that. We're gonna have to reorder this whole list now.
It's a pretty cool moment in cinema. Yeah. I deeply love Crimson Peak. I actually think if I were to redo this list from scratch, I would put Crimson Peak a little bit higher. I think you talked me into not liking this movie as much, you bastard.
I'm sorry.
I really, really love Crimson Peak. I think it's a beautiful, wonderful gothic movie. I like Devil's Backbone a lot. I think I'm gonna put it at number 3. So I'm gonna knock Devil's Backbone out of 3 and put it there, and which will allow me to keep my top 2.
Makes sense.
But there's part of me that wants to put it above The Shape of Water. I'm just gonna leave. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave it. It's Pinocchio number 3. So my top 3 are now Pinocchio, The Shape of Water, and Pan's Labyrinth. We've managed to hold on to our top 3 being the same.
Yeah.
They're just even slightly more out of order than they were a couple minutes ago.
Yeah. And
feels right.
Blade 2 is still weirdly high up on my list, which is
there
correct.
Will remain forever.
There will remain.
I want you to leave this conversation and go attempt to watch Blade 2 again, and then tell me it's better than half of Del Toro's films.
I was randomly shown a YouTube clip of it the other day, and I have to admit, I stand by my decision. It was the clip where Blade walks out of the pool of blood and cuts a man in half vertically, and then Whistler goes, "Hey kid," and he throws sunglasses, and then Blade grabs the sunglasses out of the air and then puts them on. That was the clip.
You're a simple man.
I am a simple man.
You know what you like.
I do. So. I'm unapologetic. I have my priorities in life.
So Frankenstein is coming later this year. Guillermo Del Toro's Frankenstein. I'm pretty excited about this, actually.
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac as Victor Frankenstein.
He's perfect. He's perfect. That's gonna be great.
Mm-hmm. Jacob Elordi as the monster. Interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't love this Jacob Elordi guy. Oh, he played
And
Elvis in Priscilla. Okay, I changed my mind.
Cool.
I like him now.
I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Mia Goth in it as well. No, this is going to be a very pretty movie to look at. This is one of those ones that I will just not watch the trailer for, because I already know I'm in, and I will go see it, and then we
Awesome.
will have a conversation about where to put this. Will it beat Blade 2 on Matt's list?
We'll see.
We will see. So that is Guillermo Del Toro. All right, that was fun. I enjoyed that.
Doof.
Let's wrap things up, Matt, with the latest of the Star Wars saga. We're talking about episodes 4, 5, and 6 of season 2 of Andor. So if you have not watched up to episode 6 of Andor, probably pause the podcast, go watch those episodes, and then come back, because we're gonna spoil the hell out of them.
Yeah. What do you think, Scott?
Okay. I love the show. I have such a joy watching it. Every moment of the show, I'm just like, I can't believe this exists. I can't believe I'm getting to watch it. I can't believe we're having long, extended conversations about characters' mental health and their importance to the ongoing rebellion. It's wonderful. I also am in this weird place where I feel like when I sat down to prep for this episode and to think about what I wanted to say about this show, I feel like I have very little to say about it other than it's really fucking great and I love it, which is a weird place to be. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, it's not like it's not a complicated show. I think it's a complex show with complex ideas, and normally that leads to me wanting to say things about it. But like, man, when I just sit down, I'm just like, it's good. It's good. Andor good.
Yeah.
Andor good. I don't know.
Well, I mean, for me, it may be. So first of all, I do have a few things that I wanted to talk about, but I feel you nonetheless. Like I think it's actually so subtle and complex and refuses to tell you what to think or to chew your food for you in any way that sometimes you watch a whole episode and you're just like, so what am I supposed to feel about? Like what am I supposed to take away from this? It's funny because
like a million different things simultaneously.
And I think I'm feeling exactly what they want me to feel dramatically, but I actually, I'm like, I'm going to have to wait and see how this all ends to know what I feel about it, like narrative structurally.
Yeah.
Which is a weird, not weird in a bad way. It's just, it makes it hard to talk about.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember if this was true in the first season. So I do remember the first season did the collection of episodes and then we jump forward in time thing, just like this one is doing. In this case, these 3 episodes are a year after the events of the first 3 episodes of the season. I don't remember it feeling like, so right now what I feel is even definitely more so than I felt in the first season. I feel like we are very specifically building to one specific moment, and I don't necessarily know what that moment is. Like, is that moment going to be like, are we going to end essentially right where Rogue One picks up? I don't know, but it just feels like every bit of these 6 episodes, on top of everything they're doing, have been laying groundwork for like the climax, and in a way that it feels very strongly that way for me. And so it's like, yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. Of what you said is just like, it makes it difficult to talk about the individual beats where it all feels like we're leading very specifically to something.
Yeah. I will say that I find this season to be way sadder than not just last season, but like almost anything that I've watched recently, and like sad in a way that like stays with you, where like I think I probably teared up a couple times watching Pinocchio. You're watching a man mourning his son, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I teared up watching Andor, but I definitely like turned off that last episode and just like stared because of how upsetting it was. And I was thinking about this I was putting all, you chew over things when especially when they kind of bug you and they bug you emotionally. I was thinking about like, Kino Loy. I think Kino Loy is dead. I think Kino Loy sacrificed himself to save all those other prisoners because he knew that he couldn't swim and he couldn't get away from the prison.
Oh yeah, he's super dead. Yeah.
And I thought that was poignantly, beautifully sad. That made me have that like swelling of like, oh, this is beautifully tragic, purposefully tragic, sad but bittersweet. And the death of, regrettably, I don't remember the character's name. The death of
in episode 6, Cinta, I think.
Cinta, the death of Cinta, it just made me feel so like empty sad because it was so pointless. Yeah, exactly. It was pointless. It was explicitly just like, this is stupid. This didn't need to happen. In a sense, it's like rubbed in that it didn't need to happen because Cassian told Luthen, these guys aren't professional. These guys suck. They're not ready for this. And which then opens up this whole other can of worms that we could go on a whole other tangent about, which is like, was Luthen wrong to say, to send Vel and say, hey, no, we're gonna do this regardless of what Cassian thinks, because sometimes in a revolution you don't get to pick. You don't get the best team. You have the team that you have. You have the revolutionaries that you have, and you have to do it. And then the cost of that is Cinta's death. And it's like, I don't even know how I feel about that. I don't know if I think that Luthen should have listened to Cassian, or if Luthen was right to go on anyway. And then this happens, and it's just this like horribly sad feeling of like, this is all just terribly tragic. And
there's a fact that they're playing into the plan of the Empire. This is like, they were allowed to get this intel, and the Empire wants them to succeed at this mission because it is manipulating them into overstepping. And I mean, like, ultimately Luthen and the Empire have the same goal for these people, which is fail or succeed. Like the moment of like, and what if it burns, that it'll burn brightly. Like, like that is for different ends, but same methods essentially of, we can sacrifice these people and it will ultimately get us what we want. And so, yeah, like, I think it's being torn on the purposefulness of it. Like, while we're watching the fact that it's Dedra and Cyril like executing their plan, and it worked. Their plan worked.
Yeah.
And someone died that didn't need to die. Yeah. And the mix of Cassian like saying, no, this is a bad idea. These people, like, they're not right for this. They're not ready for this. Like, and it's interesting again, like, to kind of think about where we're going with the character of Cassian, right? Because he starts out the series as just kind of this petty thief that's like pulled into rebellion. He's now fully working for Luthen here. But he's still not like, quote unquote, getting it to the point where he doesn't understand what this is going to take. And like, it was really interesting because at the first episode, we get this moment at the opening of the first episode where Bix is having this nightmare, where she's seeing the young soldier that Andor killed. And you're like, oh, so we're starting to go down the rabbit hole of Andor is becoming the ruthless rebellion leader that is willing to murder anyone. But that's not, as it turns out, the reason why Andor killed this person. Andor was primarily motivated by, this was a threat to Bix, and he's primarily motivated by protecting Bix at all costs. So we still haven't seen him as like the callous, unconcerned rebellion leader that I feel like he is eventually going to turn into.
Yeah, I keep thinking about the fact that the first time we meet him in Rogue One, he shoots a man in the back, basically to cover his own ass, and it's which makes me a little, again, like just like sad to think
Yeah,
like,
you
oh,
talk about sadness. Yeah, yeah.
is that where we're leaving off? Like, you can kind of squint and see where we're going with some of these choices. Like Bix
Mhm.
and Luthen are not in Rogue One, right? And
Yeah.
I feel like it's not because they're on vacation. And so this, I think this segues nicely into one of the other points I wanted to hit, which is just like structurally the thing that these three episodes in particular are focusing on is basically the idea of couples. So you've got Cassian and Bix are like explicitly a couple in this trio of episodes in a way where in the past it was like, in the first season it was like, well, they used to be a couple, and then in the first three episodes of this season it was like unclear whether that was actually real or just kind of her excuse. But now they're just totally a couple. Okay, so that's one, and then of course we've got Cyril and Dedra being a couple. But like so they were obviously already. We introduced the idea of them as a couple last week when we talked about this last week. But now we're putting a spin on it where it's bringing into alignment with the thematic thing that we're doing with couples here, which is putting them in the situation where they're in this context of risk and uncertainty and danger. And like, what are you going to do? Are you going to expose your loved one to risk if it's necessary? And where's your line there? Because Dedra is putting Cyril in what she knows to be very real risk. Cyril is having the time of his life.
He is loving it so much.
Like one of my favorite things about this, and tell me if your read is the same actually, is like Cyril's never been happier. And Dedra for the first time is like worried about him actually. Like she's like, have I gone too far with this? Did I like I know this was the right choice, like tactically, but I think, and it's hard to tell because like her performance is so locked down, that I could just be projecting. But I feel like she's like, I screwed this up because there's no. I think from Dedra's point of view, there's no good outcome here. It's like, if Cyril survives, he's going to find out that the whole plan here is to genocide these people. Yeah. And he's going to be upset. And then if he doesn't survive, then I'm going to be heartbroken because I actually care about him now. Because despite the fact that she's an ice queen, I think she actually does care about Cyril or value him in some, fucked up way.
Some sociopathic way. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't have that read myself, but like you saying that, I think you're probably right there. And that kind of excites me. Like that's the way I feel more than anything is excitement, because I think, like, sad, yes, I don't want to be dismissive and rude of all the characters dying and all the suffering that's happening, but also just like, I think the show has kind of meticulously and wonderfully set up these really interesting dynamics between all these characters, and I'm just really looking forward to see how those play off each other when they come in direct conflict. So the end of episode 6 has Bix take her revenge, essentially, right? And Andor helps her out.
Yeah.
It is just making sure I got the chain of events correctly. Is the understanding that like Luthen set that up for them? Because like they see the light noting that there's a job, and then that's when we see them next. So like that was something that was sanctioned by him, and maybe he was literally throwing them a bone of like, I'm going to do this for you. Or it could just be that like that doctor and his methods became, I think they mentioned it was like a program in their thing now, right? So it's getting more serious, it's becoming more formal. So I just that's correct, right? My read of that is correct.
I mean, I think it's kind of a two birds with one stone thing where Luthen's thinking like this probably is a good idea. We get rid of this guy and letting Bix be the one to do it. Kind of. So my perspective on Luthen and this whole situation that we're talking about is like, Andor is a gold mine for him. Andor is a perfect tool. Andor is like, he's like Roland Deschain in the sense where it's like, you never have to worry if Andor is going to get out of a gunfight or a intense action situation, he's going to do it because that's his thing. But now he has incurred this weakness, this flaw, which is that he cares about someone. And this person he cares about isn't content to just sit by the wayside. They want to be involved too, which is actually a handicap to Andor's effectiveness as a weapon. So Luthen is kind of trying to manage the situation, and I think that's one of the fantastically interesting things we're doing with this trio of episodes, and it also connects to Cinta and Vel is just this idea of like existing in a context of a revolution or even just a war. You just call it a war, because then we can include Cyril and Dedra in the circle here. Is just like, how do you deal with that? And is there any good way to deal with that? I feel like the answer is no. I feel like what the show is saying to us is like, there is no good way to deal with this, because if you try to go into battle together, one of you just dies. If you try to keep one of the combatants separate and on the wayside, then they begin to take narcotics for the first time in Star Wars history.
No, there were death sticks in episode 2, sir.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry. And then the Dedra thing, I still, I don't have my finger on the pulse of where we're going with that, because that's one of those elements where I feel like I won't know until we know like where Cyril ends up as a character.
Yeah.
But
I think your read from last week on Cyril is just so good, and I think these episodes did nothing but like confirm where we're going with him even more. That like, you are so absolutely right that he's got into this thing and he's so excited about it, but he does not fully understand the scope of what it means and what the Empire is actually going to do to these people. And he is the type of person that I think he has a line somewhere, and he's eventually going to bump up into it. And what will he do? How will he and Dedra's, like, that will put him and Dedra in conflict with each other? Because I want to be clear here, I don't think Dedra has a line. I don't think. I mean, it's interesting that her line might be Cyril in danger in a similar way to Cassian and Bix, right? I think that would be a fun comparison there. But I don't think she has any kind of moral qualms about what they're doing to those people, and is going to feel that this has gotten worse than we wanted it to. But I do think Cyril, as you said last week, is going to get there. That there is going to be part of this, like even in his just playing the part. He does a very good job of playing the spy here and playing the frustrated Imperial employee that is watching the Empire blunder their way through things. But there's a part of me that believes he feels that way about a lot of them. Like he always thought he was kind of hot shit, right? Like from the very beginning, like he felt like he was better than all these other people, and he felt like the Empire was not recognizing his skills and his talents and everything correctly. And part of the reason why he's so excited about what's happening right now is because he feels like he's finally getting to do the thing that he's really good at, and he's finally getting to being recognized for the importance. He's in the room. He gets to be in the room, if not literally because he's over the radio, but sometimes literally.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like it could be this really weird thing where they're working him, he's working them to work him, but they could inadvertently just be succeeding and flipping him in some ways.
Yeah, right. I mean, it depending on when he realizes what's going on, because you know, the show tells us so little that when they just say something right out, you really grasp onto it. And one thing we got, I think, in the last episode was Dedra's boss being like, Cyril can never find out what we're actually doing here, and her being like, yeah, I am very well aware of this, and she says it in a tone that makes it, I don't remember the exact word she says, but the tone is like, yeah, this has been keeping me up at night, actually. Like, because I feel I just think I'm right that Dedra actually deeply cares about Cyril as much as a person like that can deeply care about someone. And this is extremely disconcerting to her, actually. But she can't, like now she's trapped. She's trapped by it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think you're right for many reasons. Perhaps my favorite being because I will enjoy that version of the show the most, if that's true. And therefore, I want that to be correct. So.
I just feel like there's a lot of little things like, he comes back to the apartment where they live together, and it's like, for me, the whole and it turns out that she had him followed home. And for me, the whole subtext of that is like she was actually just desperately worried about him and wanted to just get him back to her safely. And then they turn off the lights. And the camera just lingers.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And she only carved out an hour for him though, because she is pragmatic and practical. But she still did carve out an hour. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. There was risk to them meeting in that way at all, but that risk was worth it.
Exactly.
So yeah, no, I think you're right here.
Speaking of these just like incredibly dramatic moments and acting moments, the 1-2 punch of like, okay, so I'll put it this way: the actress who plays Vel, Mon Mothma's sister, I've always thought she was good. Good. Yeah. She serves her role in the story, but this last episode ripped my heart out, man. Like the scene where
that
she's
speech at the end,
the speech, but also the scene where they first meet at the cafe, and she's like shaking with intensity at like, okay, like the vibe is like, I'm so both like happy to see Cinta, but also like 5,000 other emotions, and desperately not trying to show that and just be normal. And just like the intensity of that just like cafe scene, just totally sucked me into I've never been more invested. And then the speech that she gives at the end, it's like she has transformed. She's broken.
Yep.
I was
She will be a
crushed.
perfect Luthen tool from now on.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect. Yeah. It's really sad. And like incredible performance. I loved it. I also really liked I think the 6th episode is my favorite of the season so far. I found the tension of the cross cutting between what they were doing on Gorman and I can't remember the name of Luthen's assistant, and when she's trying to get the microphone back from the piece.
You can remember it because it sounds too much like Leia. I think it's Clea or something like that. Or
I think we made a joke about this in the last season, but like the utter tension of that sequence while Mon Mothma and Krennic are arguing with each other, which is just like, God, I love that. I love him so much. I wish he could be in every single scene because he's delightful. But man, the tension of that sequence and the cross cutting and the tension, but like, something's going to boil over on one side or the other and you don't know what it is. And it's just really, really, really good. Love it.
Can I tell you my secret naive hope?
Sure.
Is that my secret naive hope is that when Mon Mothma's husband finally finds out that she's been doing all this stuff, that he is like, I'm just sad that you didn't tell me.
Matt?
Yeah.
What fucking show have you been watching?
So this is based on a moderately principled analysis of his character, which is that my interpretation of Mon Mothma's husband is that, and I think this echoes and rhymes with, if you'll forgive the George Lucasism, a lot of other like romantic subplots in this show, is like, it's not that he like dislikes her, it's that he's deeply in love with his wife and is incredibly hurt by the fact that she obviously disdains him and thinks that he's like a shallow piece of shit. And he thinks she's awesome is my interpretation. He comes off as resentful because he's hurt and jealous, not because he's indifferent. And I feel like every action he has taken and thing he has said in the show makes way more sense under that light than just like, oh, he's just seething and he just hates her and he can't wait to get rid of her. I could be totally wrong, but I really could be totally wrong, right? Because like we just don't spend that much time with this character, so I'm really basing this off of pretty scanty evidence. But that's what I want to happen. I'm not even saying I think it will. I'm just saying that's what I want to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a convincing argument. I think it's equally likely that it turns out he's working with the ISB and has been the whole time. So
yeah, right. I mean, that thought has also occurred to me that we literally find out that he is like actually a spy.
Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think your read of the character is very apt. I think it doesn't necessarily mean that things will play out in that exact way. Yeah. So I don't know.
For sure.
So the one part of the episodes we haven't talked about yet is Mr. Forrest Whitaker and Saw Gerrera and everything that goes down with, I can't remember the name of the character that's sent to help them do what? I don't know. I fully understand this sequence of events in this section of the show. It was my least favorite of the things that happen in these episodes.
The show really does not care whether we understand what exactly is going on here.
Yeah. So they are like tapping like fuel, right?
I believe that they are tapping fuel from a pipeline.
But it's like really complicated for some reason.
It's unclear why it's so complicated and why there are 6 variations, what any of that bullshit means.
Was the guy he shot really a spy? Or did they just tell people he was?
It's funny, like that was one of those moments where I was like, okay, I guess he was a spy. And then later I saw somebody said like probably Saw just knew that he wanted what's his face to be the one who did the operation, so he killed the guy. I feel like he could have pulled that off without killing the guy, but he is Saw, so maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Man, I don't know. And like, okay, so the ending sequence has them like getting high on this stuff.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be bad for you, but it seems like Saw's fine with it. And is the kid gonna die? I mean, maybe the reason this is my least favorite is just because I just do not understand what's happening here.
Yeah, so I don't either. I think I might understand where in vibe space we're located, but I don't understand what we're doing like practically. Like, because this is the kid who really was like, much younger looking in the first season.
Yes.
And he was the one who, he worked in the, their whole city was all about like scavenge, right? So
yeah.
So him and his father would presumably deal with these dangerous things, and then when his father was taken by the Empire, he built a bomb which he threw at the Imperial APC or whatever.
That's right. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yes.
So like him and explosives are sort of narratively tied together, and then we say, okay, well, he's the explosives guy now. That's fine. I follow you so far, but he also just, we don't know anything about him. Like he said, 3 words. I guess he was responsible for, our beloved character Cassian's best friend dying, in the 3rd episode.
Beloved character whose name I clearly don't remember.
Yeah, that guy. The guy. I mean, yes, it is totally fair to make fun of me here. That guy was definitely like a central character for the entire show, though. So
yeah, no, you're correct. I also do not remember his name, so I'm not making fun of you.
It's very funny. I agree. And then he like had a girlfriend. That's definitely over now. And now he just seems really on the spectrum of like brokenness. I think it also ties in with the idea of Bix being just so like horribly sad to watch her deterioration.
Yeah.
It's like he's adjacent to Bix, where it's just like he's got nothing. There's no love in his life. There's no hope in his life. There's making bombs to kill the Empire, and now he's being used and exploited by like the rebellion. To the extent that Saw can be considered to be part of the rebellion. I've never understood the distinctions here, but in any case,
and maybe ultimately, like, we're seeing radicalization, right? Like,
yeah,
like if Saw and his men are part of the quote unquote rebellion, they are the militant, like, crazy wing of it, like the violent militant wing of it, and he's being radicalized perhaps by that group of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really downer note to end this trio of episodes with, to have Saw say, you think I'm insane. I am. You got to be insane to be part of a revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh, contextualize that against what we're doing with all these other characters who are being broken and ground away, and used up.
It is this like fascinating, like, I think ultimately what we're doing here with the show, like, broadly, is this fascinating dive into these almost mutually opposing ideas of rebellion, which is this very powerful and moving idea of standing up for what's right, fighting back against oppression and tyranny. And like, I'm thinking of the finale of the first season, right? This wonderful, beautiful, inspiring speech and moment, and it rouses your spirits, it motivates you, it makes you feel things, and then also on the other end of that is the truth of the day-to-day of a rebellion, at least in the mind of the show, is you're gonna have to do some pretty monstrous stuff. You have to treat people as tools. You have to treat people as expendable. You have to be willing to play a dirty game. And how those two things eventually resolve within each other, right? Like, because I mean, like, the end of Cassian Andor, the end of Cassian Andor's story is this heroic sacrifice that he dies to get the plans out. He dies, he gives his life to give the rebellion their first victory, their first big victory in the war against the Empire, which kicks everything off and starts the whole thing rolling that ends with the collapse of the Empire. Like, he is a core part of that happening, and he gives his life for it. So it's more like the latter, the former thing I was talking about. But what about that latter part? Like, how does that fit in? And I don't know if we fully know the answer yet, but it is just a fascinating idea to build the show around.
Yeah, I 100% on the same page there. The question in my mind, I think essentially what you were just saying really is like, is this show going to take us into even darker places, or are we going to get more of that? More of that light side there.
Yeah.
Like, because I've always had this notion that the role of Mon Mothma in this story, it's like, why have Mon Mothma in this story, right? It's not just to, because we enjoy the high level strategy meetings or whatever. I think it's because she is supposed to be the inspirational face of a brave, she's the light mirror to Luthen's dark side. She's the hope and inspiration thing that you're talking about. And I just really hope that what I want to see is for that to be able to come into fruition. I think all I'm really saying here is like, it would make me really sad if the whole rest of the show is just like all of our characters just like spiraling the drain and then, killing each other off. And then that's the end.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be some of that, but I agree with you. I think the show is smart enough to know that it can't just be that. I just really want to see what is its ultimate conclusion and take on that.
Yeah.
So
me too.
Yeah. Anything else you wanted to say?
just a tiny note that like part of what makes these 3 episodes feel so just like grindingly dreary to me, not in a bad way, but just like that is how it feels. It's just like Luthen himself is sort of starting to fray, which is,
Yeah.
a character who we have kind of come to think of as just like he is the imperturbable rock that the other characters rely on. He's the immovable object, and he's like visibly kind of looks worn and tired, and like I feel like that's an indicator of where we are in the story progression. That was just a thing I
he
observed.
loses his shit about the possible discovery of the listening or the microphone and the thing.
Yeah, and he's like, "Give me some good news," and it's like, "Man, Luthen, you should never say that." that's not something that Luthen would normally say. He must be really low if he's like thinking in those terms, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I mean, like you said, like there's no Luthen in Rogue One, so we'll see. We'll see what happens to him.
Yeah,
that's probably not going to be good.
Yeah.
Could you see a situation which Andor kills him? I kind of could.
Yeah, it's imaginable. In the specific way, like he sort of becomes too dark. He goes too far.
Yeah.
I could see that happening. I could see him becoming a liability, to the rebels in the way that he kind of unhesitatingly knocks off people who he sees as being a liability to the cause. I can see Cassian. You can almost envision the scene, right, where Luthen's like, yeah, good call.
Yeah, it's like you fully become me.
Yeah,
by recognizing the need to kill me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Yep. Very exciting stuff. It's weird to think we're half over. Like,
yeah,
we're halfway there. We got 2 weeks left of Andor ever.
I'm so happy. I'm enjoying so much. I'm literally just like looking forward to when it ends so I can just like binge the whole thing again end to end. So.
And then I'm going to force myself to watch Rogue One, which is a movie I really don't like. The popular sentiment of Rogue One has been that it's like the best of the Disney Star Wars, and I really did not enjoy it. But I'm wondering, it's been a long time since I've seen it. I'm wondering if so much of that is just that I think that Star Wars or the Darth Vader hallway scene is like so fucking stupid. I know everyone's like, "Oh no, that's the most badass scene in all of Star," and I hate it so much. So maybe like I just don't like that one scene, and when I rewatch the whole movie, I'll just be like, "Oh, it's a good movie." I don't know.
Yeah, I watched it after I watched Andor, and I think my opinion warmed by like 10%, but it wasn't like, I now love this movie or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see. All right. Well, we will be back with more Andor next week. Matt, did you hear about the box office stuff that's happening right now? Maybe this is the last thing we talk about before we go.
I heard something vaguely about Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. They re-released Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith last weekend. It is the 20th anniversary of that movie. We're so old. And it made $25 million at the box office last weekend.
Ridiculous.
And you know what else happened to me at work today? So I told my coworker I went to the movies last night because I did go to the movies last night because I saw the Ryan Coogler film Sinners, which is an incredible movie that I really need you to see as soon as possible.
Okay.
And that is also having a moment at the box office, by the way. It did really well its opening weekend and dropped 5% in its second weekend, which is an unheard of low percentage drop from one weekend to another. It's insane. And I went to a theater on a Wednesday night at 8:30 and it was packed. Every seat was taken. So something's happening with this movie. It's very exciting stuff. It's great to see because it's a great movie. But yeah, also apparently this damn generation, Matt, has decided that the prequels are good actually. And we're going to go to the theater to see Star Wars Episode 3. I sound like a crotchety old man here, but I actually think it's kind of cool that they have something that they're really excited about and that people recognize that the theatrical experience still has value to the point where Star Wars Episode 3 one of the most easily available movies to watch anywhere. Like, I think it set the record for number of DVDs sold. So like, there's more physical copies of Star Wars Episode 3 out there in the universe than any other movie, and yet people still see the value. And let's pay $20 and go see it on a big screen. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Episode 3 is sort of like how Gen X people probably thought about Return of the Jedi, where they're, it's like this one is not as good as the other two, which is funny because you and I love Return of the Jedi wholeheartedly, but as do most people our age, I would say. But I mean,
I think most people think the Episode 3 is the best of the prequels.
Yes, what I mean what I mean by that is like, part of our disdain for Episode 3 is like because we didn't grow up with it, and if we had grown up with it, we probably would think it was good.
Sure.
I
kind of grew up with it. How old were we when Episode 3 came out?
I
guess if it's the 20th anniversary, we were 19.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't loving it when it first came out, and then the Plinkett reviews, showed us the light, and
yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think I remember it being my favorite of the prequels the first time I saw it, which is like, also you're like an 18-year-old, 19-year-old person, and it's the darkest, most seriousest one.
Yeah.
So like that's automatically cooler, I guess.
Right. And it's the culmination of the thing that you've known was going to happen.
Sure.
Ever since you were a kid. I mean, even it's funny, even growing up as a kid watching the original movies, somehow knew the trivia that like, oh, did you know George Lucas says that the way that Darth Vader ended up in the suit is that he had a big lightsaber battle with Obi-Wan Kenobi on like a volcano, and he got horribly burned, and that's why he's in the suit. Like that was lore that existed in the ancient times. I don't even know where I heard that. I just knew it somehow.
Yeah, that's wild. Still like one of my least favorite lightsaber fights of all time.
Yeah, totally.
It was so long. And it went on forever. And like they're like jumping around on like robots and just falling things. And then suddenly 20 minutes in, Obi-Wan is just like, well, it's over. I've won. See, I am slightly higher on this hill than you. And you're like, wait a minute. We've been jumping and flipping and doing all this shit. What do you mean? You're going to, what?
Yeah. You see,
it's okay to like it though. I'm sure we have listeners out there that went and saw it in theater, and I'm happy for you. I think that's really cool.
The funny thing about the high ground thing is it's clearly like meant to connect to the thing that happened in Episode 1 with Darth Maul, but it just totally doesn't. But you can see that, you can see what he's going for, kind of.
Well, in Episode 1 with Darth Maul, like he beats him.
Right, but I think the point is like, but now he's learned his lesson about like how to handle that situation. I think that's what we're going for with that. It's like when you've got the high ground, you gotta use it, or the guy's gonna jump over your head like I did.
So you're saying that as Anakin jumps over his head, he's like, yes, this is exactly what happened with me and Darth Maul.
Yeah.
And what Maul should have done is just slice me in half as I go over his head.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. And not only am I saying that, I'm saying that George Lucas thought that was a great idea. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh, now that you've said it and I've fully realized what you mean, that is 100% what they were going for.
Okay,
yes.
Good. I'm glad.
Incredible. Great stuff. Okay, that's going to do it for us this week. If you have any opinions on Guillermo Del Toro's Pinocchio, on Andor Season 2, or on the triumphant return of Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith to theaters, You can reach out to me via email at us, not just me, us, via email at doofmedia@gmail.com, or on Twitter at doofmedia, on Instagram at doofmedia, Blue Sky. I don't think actually we don't have a Doof Media one on Blue Sky. reddit.com/r/doofmedia. Matt, I realized I stopped my story halfway through, which is the reason I brought up the Sinners thing, which is that I told my coworker I went and saw the movie yesterday, and he was like, "What'd you see? Did you see Star Wars?" I was like, "No." He's like 20 though. Like he's ideal age for this. So
that's awesome. Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
If you are not already subscribed to the Doofcast, we encourage you to click that subscribe button, ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on all of the major podcasting platforms.
And if you like what we do here and want to support us, please consider becoming a patron of Doof Media. Head on over to patreon.com/doofmedia and join us. We've got tons of bonus episodes. Our last episode on From Season 1 is going to be coming out here, I believe, next week or the week after next. And we've got Freeman Bros. We've got tons of content available out there for you on Patreon. So check it out, patreon.com/doofmedia.
And also, please consider rating and reviewing the Doofcast on Apple Podcasts. Each review does help us get more exposure and introduces new people to the content that we make here.
That is right. All right, Matt, next week on the show, we begin our newest Deconstructing Director series, Matt. We are beginning Deconstructing PTA, Paul Thomas Anderson, with his first film, a movie I have not seen. I think this is the only Paul Thomas Anderson film I have not seen. Hard 8.
Cool.
Have you seen any PTA films?
I've seen Boogie Nights.
Okay. So
I've never heard of Hard 8 though. So
I've heard of it. I've not seen it. So this is gonna be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it, and that'll begin next week.
Awesome.
We'll see you then.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.